now and then, there is a content creator that appears out of nowhere and just automatically rises and surges very quickly, even though they are talking about controversial issues that have caused other people to either be even more suppressed or suspended or targeted. And I've always said before, whenever you see someone come out of nowhere and they have no name recognition, they're not a public figure, and they blow up very quickly, particularly on X, formerly known as Twitter, and they are heavily focusing on a controversial topic that has caused other creators to get suppressed or suspended, there is something up with that person. And the person that we're talking about tonight is Ian Carroll. This guy kind of came out of nowhere. If you're not on Twitter or if you're not on TikTok, you may not be as familiar. But many of us had been saying all along that we thought there was something up with this particular creator. I know a number of people that have been suspended. Garland Nixon has been locked out of his Twitter account by Twitter for months, still cannot get back into his Twitter account. Prominent voice there. I know a number of people that had their blue checks removed from Twitter for heavily talking about Israel and advocating for, solidarity for the Palestinian people. And I'm talking about accounts that solely talk about that. Well, Ian Carroll's account was no different. Ian Carroll started on TikTok and apparently did really well on TikTok. And all of a sudden comes over to Twitter talking about the same issues that these other accounts have been suspended or severely suppressed. And while they are being deflated, his account just all of a sudden starts continuing to grow tremendously to the point where he gets over 1 million subscribers on Twitter. Now, there are people that that are public figures who are on Twitter that don't have 1 million followers. Breonna Joy Gray doesn't have 1 million followers. Katie Halper doesn't have 1 million followers. Kyle Kalinske, I've double checked, but I don't think even Kyle Kalinske has 1 million followers on Twitter. And these are prominent names. These are people that, particularly if you're in the political YouTube space, you are very much aware of, and they are active on Twitter. So we get into this Ian Carroll situation, and we got to give a shout out here to Nico House because he broke this down like nobody's business. When we talk about shutting the door, we need to dive into these creators who come out of nowhere and all of a sudden are amplified quickly to get to 1 million followers. You always have to be suspicious about that. So Nico House broke this down for Hotspot. It seems like Trump's announcement to take over Gaza exposed the grift of journalist communicator Ian Carroll. Who is this guy? Where did he come from? Why did the algorithm boost a former pro-Palestine supporter to 1 million followers in a year? Is he a Fed? You be the judge. Let's go ahead and dive in. I think this is probably one of Nico's best. Check this out.
Trump's recent announcement to finish the ethnic cleansing of the Gaza Strip might have exposed something a little bit more sinister going on behind the scenes, like this weirdo Ian Carroll. Now, we all know Trump got those loyalists who, even if they're on the right side of an issue at a certain point, will flip the moment Trump takes the opposite side, like what Andrew Tate did here, and then block my boy Nick for calling him out for doing so. Basically, Nick calls him out for being a Trump meat writer because Tate said that he's gonna give Trump the benefit of the doubt without any logic, without any context or reason as to why we should give him the benefit of the doubt. And it's even more egregious because Andrew Tate has actually been firmly in the pro-Palestine camp. And it's
Pause there. Andrew Tate is one of the ones that he points out here. Yes, Andrew Tate did block my comrade Nick from RBN because what we have seen is, and we called this, that some of these accounts that were heavily, pro-Palestine and calling out Biden and Kamala during their administration about what is happening in Gaza, we had a prediction that some of these accounts were not going to do the same if Trump were to win. And we were right. And what Nick saw with Andrew Tate was that very same thing. Now, all of a sudden, Andrew Tate has no problem. Let's just sit back and wait and see what happens. No problem with Donald Trump saying the U.S. is going to take over Gaza. But he had a problem with Israel last year saying that they wanted all the Palestinians out and they wanted to take over Gaza. Now, all of a sudden, that it's under Trump's administration, they have no problem with that. Say whatever you want about me, but I've been consistent. When I criticized Israel under Biden and Kamala, I criticized Israel under Donald Trump's administration as well. When I criticized Biden and Kamala for their support of Israel, I've criticized Donald Trump for his support of Israel as well. In fact, before Donald Trump even took the White House, I criticized basically his entire cabinet for being pro-Israel. So that's being consistent. And what you are starting to see is that some people are not consistent. And some of these people were actually Trump supporters. And maybe it wasn't so much that they cared so much about the Palestinians. They were just riding a wave. Pay attention to that. Let's continue.
Called out Israel religiously. Now, Tate is the only Trump supporter that came out of nowhere and all of a sudden flipped his stance on Palestine the moment that Trump came out and said that the U.S. has plans to take over the Gaza Strip. It's like my friend Misty says here. It's like a narrative went out to all the major shill accounts and they're following their order. But I gotta be fair, it's not all MAGA people, because this guy, Ian Smith, was extremely critical of Trump's decision, saying that he's not fucking dying for Israel. Comedian and political pundit Dave Smith comes out and says that he cannot overstate how awful this guy's idea is. And yeah, he voted for Trump too. Bro, even Candace Owens, shortly after Trump made this announcement, retweeted something calling out the Israeli lobby's control over the US government and not tweeting out a single word of support after the announcement was made. So not everybody got the script. But I'll tell you who did. This motherfucker right here, Ian Carroll. A person who many would probably say could contribute his success to his pro-Palestine advocacy over the last year or so. And now I'm going to explain to y'all what I meant at the beginning of the video when I said it seems to be a little bit more nefarious than what people think. Like this is something that might have been planned long before any of us were even thinking about Trump coming in and announcing that we're going to take over Gaza. So after consistently calling out the genocide for a little over a year, Trump announces his plan, and Ian all of a sudden is like, you know what? I think ethnic cleansing is actually okay.
Actually okay. And this is what Ian said. Oh, the benefits to the U.S. would be incalculable, from the profits of rebuilding to the oil and gas resources in the area, to defanging Israel and breaking their monopoly on the global narrative, to have an even more American military. He goes on to say that American military presence. So now all of a sudden, this account that was heavily against all this when Biden and Kamala were in office, now that Trump is in office and he's saying, yes, let's go ahead and take the land in Gaza. Now all of a sudden, he sees this as a good thing. Now all of a sudden, military intervention is a good thing. Now all of a sudden, land theft is a good thing. Now all of a sudden, there's no problem with it. So what you're seeing, and people called this out last year. They were like, I think this dude could be an op. And it was pretty obvious to anyone that was paying attention. And so Nico even called it out then. He said, this man is an op. And I've said this before, guys. You do not grow on Twitter that quickly to 1 million subscribers with no name recognition. You just don't, unless somebody is helping you out. And that someone would be Elon Musk. It goes on.
I think ethnic cleansing is actually okay. He puts out a tweet and even a follow-up video saying that, yeah, man, we should definitely send troops to Gaza because that would stabilize the region. And also, this could have huge economic benefits for the United States. And also, I don't see another solution. How else are we going to stop the violence? Maybe Trump's plan isn't that bad. And I'm going to show you how easily that argument is deconstructed. But first, let's deconstruct Ian. Who the fuck is this man? Ian Carroll, who showed up to Twitter in May of 2023 out of nowhere with zero credentials and somehow amassed 1.1 million followers and is religiously promoted by the algorithm, despite previously being on the pro-Palestine side of the argument. And we know.
And another thing I want to point out, if you look at his page, it says follow the money, seek the truth. So he's on this I'm trying to seek the truth and find out the truth, like, like kind of energy. And there are people who are investigative journalists that actually do that, like Whitney Webb, right? Like she does that. She tries to find the truth. Glenn Greenwald tries to find the truth. The Gray Zone tries to find the truth. And then there's people like Ian who use that I'm trying to find the truth motto to run cover for protecting the goals on the right. Because if you're trying to get to the truth and you have an issue with military intervention and you have an issue with Palestinians losing their land, and if you have an issue with the pro-Israel argument, you would still have those issues regardless who was president of the United States. It's the people that make the pivot. And this is what I've been pointing to for quite some time. I told you guys, come Trump's presidency, you are going to see people make a shift. And it's funny because some people said, oh, that's going to be you guys at RBN are going to kiss Trump's ass and da-da-da and all this kind of stuff. And you're not even going to talk about Gaza. But we're still talking about it, not kissing his ass. And they're the ones who are making the pivot. So pay close attention to this. There are people that are purposely just trying to go in an angle where they can make a lot of money. And that's what this really comes down to.
Oh, being pro-Palestine generally gets you banned, suspended, or both, not boosted. Who is this Ian Carroll that has 1.7 million TikTok followers in a little bit over a year and has a bunch of impersonators also with damn near tens to hundreds of thousands of followers? Like this man is some well-known academic or researcher that everyone has been aware of for decades. Ian Carroll, who showed up out of nowhere in May of 2023, that ended up going on major podcasts immediately like Danny Jones. The dude gets invited to go on to Fox 11 Los Angeles to talk about the P. Diddy scandal. Dude is so present in the algorithm that he's literally getting reposted by Joe Rogan.
That one right there. This is the big mask off, right? Joe Rogan is reposting him, which Joe Rogan doesn't repost many people, especially someone you don't unknown. You know how many people have been in this space for years and have never been retweeted by Joe Rogan? Have never been even on Joe Rogan's show? I'm pretty sure Ian keeps this up. It's probably heading in that direction. So people, these are the kind of things you have to start asking yourself. This person comes out of nowhere, jumps to 1 million subscribers while discussing Gaza, which a lot of people were doing, and they're being penalized for it, but he's not. He's not. Most of us on YouTube will be the first to let you know almost every video that discusses Israel or Gaza is demonetized. Almost every one of my videos. And this guy just seems to be, they're just pushing him up. That does not make any sense when the other accounts who've been talking about Palestine for so long are being suppressed, had their check marks taken away, or they were suspended. Now you tell me what you think is going on. Huh?
By Joe Rogan. The Ian Carroll that started his YouTube channel around the same time he got on Twitter has only 830,000 views and only 33 videos, but somehow amassed almost 100,000 subscribers in that short amount of time with almost no viral videos.
No viral videos. So that's the other part. This is another thing you guys need to pay attention to. Again, if you were a prominent figure, like, for example, if you were a celebrity and you started a channel and you automatically jumped that quick, that's understandable. Everybody know who you are. And so you're going to get that increase very quickly, right? Like Shannon Sharp, right? When he started like Club Shay Shay or whatever, a lot of people know who Shannon Sharp is. He's a celebrity. So that makes sense. However, with Ian Carroll, that does not make sense. Another thing that I want to point out is that the algorithm doesn't transfer over to different platforms. What do I mean by that? People who often do very well on TikTok do not seem to have that same success on X or YouTube because the algorithms are different. In particular, some people I know that had a YouTube channel first, when they created a TikTok channel, they were able to go viral on TikTok, but they've never been able to go viral on YouTube. Again, different algorithm. The point that Nico makes here about not having any viral videos, that is really, even I've had some viral videos. So keep that in mind. These are the kind of things you want to watch for.
In case you were curious, that's not how YouTube math works. Not to mention the dude is transparently opportunistic. Like when dude had the opposite RFK Jr. experience, saying that RFK was dead to him after RFK's ridiculous comments supporting genocide in Gaza. And he actually even calls RFK a shill and says that's why people aren't voting for him. Only to turn around in March of 2024 to be like, yeah, actually, Kennedy is democracy. And I say the reverse RFK experience because he's the only pro-Palestine supporter that started supporting RFK after he announced his love for genocide. Like, we don't know who Ian Carroll is politically, and we don't know who he is at all before May of 2023. Go ahead, try it. Tell me anything at all about Ian Carroll. Don't worry, I'll wait. In 2025, one of the most popular political pundits on the internet has zero digital footprint from before he was famous, and that's not suspicious to y'all.
And we need to see what this account said. This is Polly St. George. Ian Carroll says an account that grew to 125K followers since joining X in November 2023 could well be a professional intel agency operation. Ian Carroll has 817,000. That was before he got to 1 million followers, and he joined in May of 2023. So pay attention, right? Sometimes they tell you who they are ahead of time.
Was famous, and that's not suspicious to y'all. He's an op. I mean, bro, if you look at the mustache and the hairdo, the dude looks like CIA Barbie. And not to mention the arguments that he makes now directly contradict the arguments that he made before. And sure, it's very possible that he's just a cloud chaser, an engagement farmer. He's gonna say whatever he can to get as many followers as he can. But like Missy said, the script went out and he seems to be following it to a T. David Icke encapsulates it beautifully here. He says that this blog has never seen a Trump policy he didn't want to support. And so often on the basis of better of two evils, I don't like it, or it's the only way. Who is this guy? And why do the algorithms love him? Y'all know the last time someone came out of nowhere and became extremely popular in a short amount of time, despite constantly contradicting his own opinion? This guy, Vaush, the pedo FBI agent. The same Vaush who, like Ukraine, got caught begging for money after the USAID got shut down, because we know what the USAID is used for: government propaganda. So no, I can't say for sure who Ian Carroll is or what his intentions or motives are, and I think that's probably the problem. I just know the guy arrived right before the elections and right before the genocide started, got popular because of the genocide, and all of a sudden has fallen in love with Trump and has started supporting ethnic cleansing that many people already believe has been in the plans for an extended period of time. And I'm just saying, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, he's a motherfucking op.
So I see myself more as a bridge than an actual journalist. I'm not really an investigative journalist. I'm a journalism communicator. Not really an investigative journalist. I'm a journalism communicator.
So we have to be very aware of the people who are pretending like they are truth tellers and that they are on the side of justice, that in the end they're not. And I want to show you something else. This is really important too, that Nico brought up. To be clear, Ian's brand was built on following the money, yet has never had anything to say about Peter Thiel. People, you can't find a penny on the ground that doesn't lead back to Thiel in some way. But here, Ian can't even bring himself to say Thiel's name. And I want to show you that here, because that is Derek Bros, who also works with Whitney Webb. And I want to show you this example. Listen to how many times Derek Bros says Peter Thiel's name. Listen to this.
And Peter Thiel, though, is a steering committee member of the Bilderberg Group. And that's another fact that I don't think we can just breeze past, just like with the genocide going on in Gaza. The Bilderberg Group has been immensely influential behind the scenes. And I know you know this, but for anybody else who's kind of woken up the last couple of years, just a decade ago, the Bilderberg Group was still a secret. They didn't have a public website. They didn't put out a list of topics and a list of people. It was journalists like Jim Tucker back in the day, Alex Jones a little bit in the early days as well, and then others who are literally showing up and finding the locations and going and confronting politicians and documenting, look here, this prime minister was here, this reporter was here, this person from this organization or whatever, that exposed it to the point that they had to talk about it. And then you had Charlie Skelton, the only mainstream journalist at The Guardian who was reporting on it. He's still the only person who consistently does talk about it. But now the Bilderberg Group has a public face. They've got a website. They'll put their attendees out there and they put a very generalized list of topics, Russia, AI, Iran, whatever. But that would have never happened if it weren't for the work of activists and journalists exposing them. They are, I don't think they're the top of the pyramid, but they absolutely are representatives of whoever's behind them. And we know Kissinger was deeply involved until his death. And so the fact that you have steering committee members of the Bilderberg Group like Peter Thiel funding Donald Trump, and yes, to be fair, Eric Schmidt, former CEO of Google, funding Harris, and so Alex Karp, also steering committee member of the Bilderberg Group, co-founder of Palantir with Peter Thiel, also funding Harris. It's on both sides. It's the Zionists and the Bilderberg technocrats are on both sides. So that's another, to me, a big piece of the picture is looking at Peter Thiel's influence. You could also look at how Peter Thiel essentially funded the rise of J.D. Vance. So if they do win and Trump retires, then Vance is next in line, right? And so Peter Thiel, steering committee of the Bilderberg Group, they continue to have that influence.
So notice how many times Derek Bros has mentioned Peter Thiel's name. And I want to reference this as well. A lot of the issues that Derek Bros and Whitney Webb talk about, they cannot talk about on YouTube, right? Like, so they don't have like a YouTube. I think they tried to have a YouTube channel and they were ultimately like shut down, right? So keep that in mind. Well, Ian talks about some of those same things. So how is it that he's able to come on YouTube and grow, but Whitney and Derek have been shut down? See, these are the kind of things that you need to ask, folks. Wait till you hear his response, though.
Even post-Trump. So those are some of my major concerns as far as those two gentlemen, the sort of technocrat aspect of this.
It's a great point, and I think it's worth highlighting that, and I don't know if I've ever even gotten to say this on camera too, is that one of the biggest reasons why I have such respect for your work and for Whitney Webb's work and for several of these other journalists that are aligned with you guys is because you guys represent what real journalism is and always was and is desperately still needs to be, which is holding the powerful to account, all the powerful to account, not picking a side and saying I'm on Trump's side and I'm going to hold the other people to account. I'm on this side, I'm going to hold the other people to account, is reporting on all the powerful people and holding them all to account. And it's a very black pilling kind of a space to be in because the world is so effed right now. And it's A, it's not popular. B, you piss off everyone on every side. So it's like you don't, in this new world of likes and clicks and subscribers and, social media, it's a deeply unpopular place to be. And
So let's go ahead and stop there. I've listened to the whole thing. So he doesn't get into the Peter Thiel part at all. Doesn't want to mention his name for some reason. But to his own point that he just made there, that in this type of algorithm and talking about those things, like obviously it's going to be hard to get that traction when you're talking about those types of issues. So to that point, how is he able to get that traction? And why have Derek and Whitney been shut down? So pay attention to those types of things, right? Another thing that Nico brings up, I want to bring this up here as well. I think this is incredibly important. He's responding to someone else and said, yeah, I mentioned his TikTok following here, but you're correct. It's nearly impossible to unestablished creators to create a massive following on literally every single major platform. Hell, even if you're kind of established, you're lucky to get a huge following on two of the major ones because not all algorithms are created equal. To have at least 100K to 1 million on everything from YouTube to TikTok and Twitter in less than a year is incomprehensible. 100%. He is correct. And these are the types of things I want you guys to pay attention to. Remember, not everybody who is coming forward to say they're going to speak truth to power is being genuine. Some of these people are trying, and now he's taking the same people that he was able to convince that, listen, the Palestinian people are being treated horrifically, and they are not, they don't have self-determination. They're being exploited, like Israel is trying to get rid of, they want to exterminate all of them, etc. You grab those people and got them to believe that view. Now Ian is taking those same people and convincing them to believe that Trump's idea of having the U.S. take over Gaza is actually a good thing and is beneficial. That puts his entire argument over the past year to BS. Because the reality is, you can't sit there under Biden and Kamala and say military intervention is a problem, land theft is a problem, genocide is a problem, what's happening to the Palestinians is a problem. But now that Trump is in office, you're okay with it. So do you see what he has done? He gravitated an audience, got that audience, got immediate boost on X when everybody else is being suppressed for talking about that exact same issue in the exact same tone. And then he took all those people and told them Trump is doing the right thing here. So these are the types of people that you have to be more cautious of. And like I told you before, anytime somebody grows that quickly and they're not a public figure, you need to start asking some damn questions. There are a number of us that have been on YouTube, Twitter, etc., and we did not grow overnight. I've been here since I started the show when 2021. And most of us I don't even have 100K on Twitter. And I tweet. So pay attention to those things. So in the essence of shutting the door, it's time to, if you have not done so, you need to shut the door on Ian Carroll. This guy is either an op, a fed, or something. Because nobody gets boosted through the algorithm in that way, talking about the things that he talked about, unless he's on the side of the opposition. Keep that in mind. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.